This is part 3 of Books Are Curious by Hugh B. O'Brien from Court Hill. Enjoy. Jesus, he said aloud, and looked around the kitchen to make sure there was no one listening. There was the most beautiful music coming from the box, and 2 tiny figures had jumped up, a man and a woman, or a girl and a boy, dressed in tight-fitting clothes of lovely colours of blue and white and red and black, and their faces shiny pink, and they were moving to the rhythm of the sound. When the music stopped, he moved closer to the box. He touched the head of the lady to get her to move again. She did, but this time there was no music. Instead, the figures hinged upwards, and there was another part of the box revealed. Jesus, what the hell kind of a yoke is this? He whispered. There was an off-white piece of what looked like some sort of sacking spread over this part of the underside. He put his hand on it and the cloth moved. Should he lift it and have a peep? He would put it back then. What the hell? He pulled back one corner of the sacking. There were what looked like small bags, separately tied. They were made of the same kind of sacking as the cover. He looked around the kitchen to see if he was alone. Then, chided himself for being silly, he carefully lifted out one of the bags. He felt it, and it reminded him of the pincushion that his mother had made years ago, and which she had stuffed with soft sawdust. Carefully combed out of the pile from Tommy Mullen's workshop, and then teased out on the kitchen table before being packed into the small red velvet pouch, and then double-stitched all the way round, with a little hanging loop at one corner. He lifted the bag to his nose, but he couldn't get no smell from it. He carefully placed it down on the side of the box. He took out another bag and rooted around in the vacant area to see if there was a lower level. Satisfied, he replaced the bags, smoothed over the sacking, pulled the dancers down into place, and closed and locked the box. He wrapped and tied it as best as he could and hid it in the original spot behind the television. Exhausted, he plodded towards the stairs, climbed under the blankets, and grabbed whatever sleep the night could give up. Home is the traveller, home from the sea. Old Murta greeted Packy as he stuck a scrap of the cooked ham he was cutting into his mouth. Your mate hasn't appeared yet. He must have a woman somewhere. What? McQuaid, who was leaning across the counter, laughed and had a bit of crack. Packy gave a short laugh of acknowledgement and stooped to get milk from the bottom shelf of the fridge. He heard the shop door open. He lifted his head to see who it was and froze. He jerked down again and waited. It was Leathercoat that spoke first. Hi, he said. Good evening, answered Murta. What can I be getting for you? Leathercoat must have been rummaging in the chocolate case. Packy heard Murta ringing up the sale. Leathercoat spoke again. I'm looking for a McCall man, he said. Which McCall man would that be now? Murta inquired. He sells things, Leathercoat replied. Whatever you want, he added in a conspiratorial way. Do you know anyone round here that sells things like that, Peter? Murta asked, bringing McQuaid into the conversation. No, said McQuaid, dragging out the word. Not around here as far as I know. I think there's another bloke goes round with him, a helper, Leathercoat said, as he made for the door and left the shop. The silence was broken by Murta. Are you all right back there, Packy? McQuaid moved forward to peer out through the unfrosted part of the plate glass window. Cripes, he whispered. He didn't get that yoke off Monaghan's scrap heap. The size of it and the shine. Murta joined McQuaid at the window. They're gone, he said. Aye, but for how long? McQuaid replied. Packy came forward with the milk He said nothing. "I'll run you up to the house," McQuaid offered. Packy refused and headed for the door. He didn't want to answer questions, not from McQuaid anyway. All the way up the road he kept wondering what the hell was happening. And the box. Packy hurried in from the back when he heard McQuaid's voice in the kitchen later that night. "Are you not getting the news?" McQuaid said as he moved towards the television. He seated himself and was getting comfortable as the screen was lighting up. He got back up and moved to the television to remove whatever was interfering with his view. "You have something caught there, Packy," McQuaid grunted as he raised the television to release whatever it was that was caught there. Packy jumped to his feet. "Don't pull that," he said more loudly than he intended. "What?" McQuaid looked at Packy. "I'll have it out in a jiffy. You'll only interfere with the television." But McQuaid wouldn't be stopped, and he turned round again. Packy could see with horror the belt of the bundle in his hands. "What the hell is that?" said Packy, innocently. "There's something else stuck there," McQuaid said, busying himself again, and before Packy could move or say anything, the bundle was out and firmly held in McQuaid's grasp. As he moved towards the table, the beltless cloth hung loosely over the partially exposed box. Packy was stiff with fright. His toes dug into his shoes and his shoes into the floor under him. So engrossed were Packy and McQuaid in the box on the table that neither of them heard the kitchen door open. The figure lunged forward and grabbed McQuaid by his hair. Packy saw a white flash and heard the unmistakable voice. "Let go of it, you wee fucker, you," McCall viciously whispered, "or I'll rip your throat out, you whore's mouth, you." He turned to Packy. "What kind of a bollocks are you?" he snarled. "It was a simple enough thing to ask, and you couldn't do it." He looked down at McQuaid, who was curled protectively on the floor. "Get out of here. Keep your mouth as tight as your sister's legs, or I'll gut the pair of you." McQuaid whimpered across to the door on his hands and knees and scampered out, leaving Packy and McCall and the box in the kitchen. McCall took the cloth and flung it on the floor. The box now stood naked on the table. "Did you open this?" he inquired, holding the box in one huge hand while moving his knife hand towards the tiny keyhole. "Don't," Packy said. "There's a key," he continued, reaching for the discarded cloth and rummaging through it. "So you did have a wee peep now, did you?" "I was trying to put it in a safer place and the cloth came loose and I saw the box and I thought it was beautiful, and then the key seemed to be in my hand and I opened it, and when I lifted the lid I heard the most beautiful music, and when I looked I saw two tiny figures, a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl, all dressed in beautiful colours of blue and white and red and black, and their faces shiny pink, and them moving to the music." And McCall cut him off. "You have an awful lot of hands there. What else?" "Nothing," muttered Packy. "I don't think so. But you're in this now, and if you open your mouth, the next music you hear won't be of this world." McCall warned. He stooped to fit the key in the lock when there was a loud crash. It was the outer back door. The kitchen door also splintered. Leathercoat was in a crouching pose before them. There was another man behind him. He was holding something in his hand, a gun. McQuaid was framed in the broken doorway, leering in at them. Packy reached for the box. He felt a sharp, stinging pain that travelled up from his smashed fingers through his arm. The next blow knocked him to the floor. Through the haze of dizziness, he heard unfamiliar sounds, groans and bangs. Something hit his face. There were shuffles and then silence. After a time, he rolled over and his face jarred against a jagged edge. He raised a protective hand and carefully touched the offending object. It was the lid of the box. He raised himself on his side. Beside the broken box there were scattered pieces of blue and white and red and black and pink. But all the magic of music and movement was silent.